Welcome to the video where today you'll learn about restorative justice and how to apply it to real-world issues. With me, your host, Herta. Firstly, what is restorative justice? I feel like not a lot of people know the term. So, restorative justice, or RJ, or restoratives practices, or whatever you want to call it by, it has many names, seeks to examine the harmful impact of a situation that causes harm, and then determines what can be done to repair that harm. Oftentimes, you talk to each individual party of the incident, and if everyone wants to, you can hold community building circles, which is exactly what comes in the name, just a circle between the mediator and whoever was in the situation, and everyone talks about their perspective. And a middle ground I tried to reach where accountability is taken and harm is repaired. Now, that's just the basic overview. But I am going to be throwing around a lot of big words, I know, terrifying. But please, stop screaming. Don't worry, I'll go over them for you so it's not confusing. So I figured it might be a good idea to go over some key tenets and just some important words. I think, hopefully, that you know most of these words. But review is good, so starting from the top. Also, yes, I did just go to Webster Dictionary and get the definitions. SUMI, accountability. The act of taking ownership of your actions, decisions, and their outcomes. Repairing harm. The process of addressing the consequences of wrongdoing, conflict, or injury to restore relationships and promote healing for all involved. Inclusion. The action or state of including or of being included within a group or structure. Healing. The process of making or becoming sound or healthy again. Community responsibility. The duty of individuals and groups to act in ways that benefit the collective well-being of their community. So, those are the core tenets. Now, with all of that out of the way, we can get into the next segment. I figured this topic may be fitting considering the world's state right now, and also just a topic that needs a lot of attention. I firstly want to talk about bias and prejudice because those are two very big topics, especially in relation to marginalized communities, which is a lot of what we're talking about. A lot of people have unintentional bias against groups that they themselves are not a part of, whether it be based off of the color of your skin, your religion, or a whole plethora of different things. And this bias is stuff that you learn throughout your life, and it is often stuff you've heard and internalized. Everyone has bias. Bias is the prejudice in favor of or against one thing, person, or group compared with another, usually in a way considered to be unfair. Bias can be anything from preferring Fruit Loops to Cheerios, or to having specific opinions on sexual orientation and different religions, and so on and so forth. It's important to recognize you, and every person around you, is going to have bias, and that is never going to change. But it's also important to realize when bias is harmful, and what you can do to change your bias. Bias becomes harmful when it is targeting specific groups for things that are out of their control, targeting specific groups of people in general. It's also important to never force your bias on others that is also intrinsically harmful. I also want to talk about the definitions of microaggressions and hate crimes. Microaggressions are often defined by a statement, action, or incident regarded as an instance of indirect, subtle, or unintentional discrimination against members of a marginalized group. A hate crime is typically involving violence that is motivated by prejudice on the basis of ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, etc. Both are actions against marginalized communities based off of internalized bias. Microaggressions can be unintentional, but are still just as harmful. But how does this topic tie into restorative justice and restorative practices? Well, what we went over in the first segment is essentially what the main tenets of restorative practices are. And restorative practices are used when a wrongdoing has happened. So for example, if someone has committed a microaggression against a marginalized community, or a person from a marginalized community, you could have that community building circle after getting both sides of what happened. Let's go through an example of what a situation involving a microaggression against a person from a marginalized community might look like. I'm personally going to use an example of what's happened in my life, but there is a wide array of things that happen on a daily basis to a whole plethora of people from marginalized communities. So do not take this as the one I'll be off for microaggressions. So in this situation, there's this kid in my neighborhood who says slurs a lot that they're not allowed to say. And they had called me the F slur, which I'm used to getting often. But if we had had the opportunity to approach it through a restorative justice lens, I would have asked a neutral third party to join us, preferably someone who's older, in this case, probably a teacher, and I talk about my perspective on the situation, and they theirs. I know I was kind of getting very upset with them, and agitated with them, and angry with them, because they were sort of picking on me and not really leaving me alone. This was like 2 years ago, if I remember right. And so I take accountability for that, and I hope the other person would take accountability for their usage of slurs and not leaving me alone when I had wanted to be left alone and engaging with me when I had not wanted to be engaged with. And we'd have a sort of conversation about what to do moving forward, whether that's just to avoid each other or apologize or anything along those lines.